Hi, I'm Lillian. Welcome back to my channel Ink and Pages. Today I'm going to be showing you my 2023 reading journal and all of the spreads I've set up for it. I'll briefly touch on what's different to last year and then why I've made any changes I have, as well as obviously talking through all of the basic spreads that I've been using ever since I started a reading journal in 2021. I have started a brand new notebook for this year instead of continuing in the one I was using for last year. Even though I had quite a lot of pages left over, I had about 100 pages left, which sounds bad if I've just told you I'm starting a brand new notebook, but I know that I'll need at least 140 pages for like a year's worth of book journaling, so I decided to just start a brand new notebook. This is the same kind of notebook, however. This is the classic Leuchtturm 1917 book. This is the A5 size and I went for the classic dotted paper, so let's take a look inside. So this very first double page has two new spreads that I've not done before. On the left, we have a very basic reading tracker, just to count how many books I finish and no other information about them. I've drawn out 35 boxes on this page, but I've written in the numbers 1 to 23 only because 23 is the official reading goal I've set myself for this year. Once I reach it, I will just write in any extra numbers as I go. And on the off chance that I read more than 35 books, I've laid it out in a way that I can draw a few more boxes at the bottom here and like continue this bottom row if I need to. This right hand page is obviously a ratings guide. I saw lots of other people doing a page like this in their reading journals and I really loved the idea, so I wanted to include one this year. So this is how I rate my books. 1 star means I didn't like it, 2 stars is it was okay, 3 stars I liked it, 4 I really liked it, and 5 I loved it. I also use half stars, which will be like a mix between two of these tiers. So for example, 2.5 stars would mean that the book was just okay, but it did have some elements that I liked. My reading log layout is unchanged from my very first ever reading journal. On these 2 double pages, I will just write down the title, author, and star rating of every single book I read this year. Next is one of my favorite spreads, and this is my bookshelf spread. This is yet another way of tracking my reading, and really it will contain less information than the previous reading log because I'll just be writing down the names of the books onto the book spines here. I love it when people color code spreads like this. For example, they could use 5 colors to show the book star ratings, or they color code depending on whether they read the book as an ebook, audiobook, or physical book. I personally am just a bit paranoid that the moment I commit to a color scheme like that, the pen I've chosen for one of the colors will run out. And just when I got over this fear and had pretty much committed to using this pack of highlighters that I got from Paper Chase to color code this spread, I discovered that those pens are really bad at coloring over this black pen. Like, it will just smudge everywhere. It's horrific. So I'm back to my old method, I think, of just choosing kind of random colors as I go that hopefully don't look terrible together. And here are all my bookish goals for this year. I spoke about them in more detail in my last video, but for each one, I've drawn out a box that is 10 centimeters long. And then as I progress through these goals, I'll color in the box like a progress bar. So if I'm a quarter of the way through achieving a goal, I'll color in at 2.5 centimeters of the box. You get the idea. This next spread is exactly the same as last year, down to the exact same washi tape I used. Although I think I did a better job of spacing out the washi tape this year to make it look neater. But on this spread, I will write in the dates of every day I read this year, and then for days that I don't do any reading, I'll just mark them with a little dot. My reading statistics page is also exactly the same as last year and tracking the exact same stats. I'm going to be looking at books finished, pages read, how many days a month I did any reading, the average rating for a month, whether or not I took part in a readathon, and then how many books I added to my shelves. I also have a reading spreadsheet, which I use to track a lot more information and stats for the books I read, but these are the ones I like to track on paper. But this is a brand new spread, also inspired by ones I've seen online. I thought it would be fun to, following on from my reading stats for this year, have a little overview of my reading for the past 8 years, which is when I first discovered Booktube and started to track my reading. So we have all of my stats on the left, and on the right hand side are my favorite books from each of the past 8 years. My rule for this is that rereads could win, but not previous winners. So otherwise Nimona would have been my favorite book for 2022 as well, but because it was my favorite in 2017, it was disqualified. So instead I put A Dark Shade of Magic, even though this was also a contender for my favorite book of 2015. But back to some familiar old spreads, we have my genre tracker here, and the only change I made to this was to slightly alter the order of the genres, but that's it. And my favorite book of the month is exactly the same, and I'll use it exactly the same as last year by sticking in a little picture of the book I enjoyed the most each month. Last year, I didn't actually finish any books in November, so I had to just draw a grey line through that box, so hopefully I won't have to do that again this year. Here is my entire TBR list as of the 1st of January. Last year, I had two separate spreads for my TBR. I had one page for fiction and one page for non-fiction, but I didn't love how that looked. So this year I decided to put them all together as one big spread. The books are in order of the ones I've owned the longest without reading on the top left, down to the most recent additions to my shelf on the bottom right. I somehow counted and double checked and triple checked I was drawing the right number of books, but somehow still got it wrong. So I actually do have 60 books on here instead of 59, but I don't really care, so that's fine. Next is this Buzzwordathon spread, which I'm now realizing I've done the wrong date on. Oh dear. Okay, I'm gonna have to go over that and replace 2022 with 23. But this looks a little bit different than it was supposed to. Last year, I did these boxes by cutting up this really vivid yellow washi tape, and I was planning on doing the same thing for this year, but then after doing 1.5 boxes, I ran out of the tape. So I had to peel it off and come up with a plan B. So if I do get some more washi tape in the right kind of shade that I'm imagining, I might go in and just go over these boxes again during the year. We'll see. One other thing that's different to last year's Buzzwordathon spread is that instead of writing out the month for each prompt, I've just done the numbers 1 to 12 because I'm not going to be limiting myself to fulfilling the prompts in order like I tried to do last year and then gave up on because it was impossible for me. These two double pages are ones that I didn't include in my reading journal last year at the start, but they are ones I added in partway through the year. So I'm pleased that they're now in their proper places at the start of my reading journal. So these two are the Read the Rainbow and the Alphabet Challenge. They're pretty self-explanatory. On the left, I will stick in the book covers I read for each of the colours. And then once I read a book whose title starts with each of the letters of the alphabet, I will colour in that letter and write in the title. TBR Bingo contains 25 of the books from my owned TBR as of the start of the year, and I tried to put in a nice mix of the books. So we've got some that I've owned for ages and haven't read, some from my mythology and folklore shelf, some language books, and some books I got more recently like Monstrous Volume 7 and In an Absent Dream, which I just got for Christmas. And then this reading bingo has 25 reading prompts that I came up with myself. Some are to do with the location of a story, some are more general, and I also did a few which are related to 2023 in some way. So we have prompts for 23 words on the cover, a book that was published in 2023, 23 letters in the title, and then less than 230 pages. Last year I did much better on the reading bingo I set myself than the TBR bingo. I got most of the reading ones and then only 2 of my 2022 TBR bingo. This is a brand new spread I've added for this year and is related to my reading goal to read a book from each continent, not including Antarctica, obviously. Once I read a book from a continent, I will stick in a picture of the cover and then colour in on this map which country it was from. I absolutely did not draw this myself. I spent a lot of time Googling outline map of the world until I found one I liked. Next are my Booktube and Bookstagram spreads. Here on the left, I'll just mark off which days of the year I post video, and then in these 12 boxes, I will print out the thumbnail of the video I made that month that I'm most proud of. And the Bookstagram spread is exactly the same. I will colour in which days I post a photo, and then on the right-hand side, I will put in my favourite photo that I posted each month. This year, my anticipated releases spread is quite different to last year because I didn't love that first version I did. So I decided to put it over 2 pages so I'd have more space to add books in. This is all despite the fact that I don't really make it a priority to read brand new releases. I'd much rather give it some time and wait for the paperback version of a book to come out. But it can still be useful to keep track of which books I am particularly looking forward to in a year. And this series tracker is also quite different to the one I did last year. Instead of writing out the name of every single book in a series, I've saved a lot of space by just putting the title of the series itself and then drawing a box for each of the books in the series. I like this method a lot better because it just looks so much neater, and if extra books in a series are announced, I can just draw them in at the end of the row, no problem. On these 2 pages, I will record all of the new books I get in a year. This is a very basic and useful spread that has always been the same in all of my reading journals. And finally, I decided at the last minute to add in a film log for this year because I spent a few years recording all of the films I watched and what I thought of them, and it was really fun. So I decided I would like to try that again for this year. So that is my reading journal for this year. If you have any questions, let me know. I would love to do a video like partway through the year, same as I did last year, where I show like an update of this reading journal and how I've been using it and then anything I've changed or added to it. I'm also going to be doing a video pretty soon of my 2022 reading journal and a full flip through of how that turned out. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.